A powerless servant starts commanding nobles like he already owns their future. Spoiler warning from here on. Yifan Zhuo may look like a young butler trapped at the bottom of someone else's hierarchy, but the soul inside him remembers a far darker throne. Betrayed in his former life and reborn into a fragile servant body, he now has to navigate Lady Luo's dangerous family ties, hostel rooms, and people who mistake status for strength. That mistake becomes his greatest weapon. Every pouch, token, aura, and emotional reaction gives him another way to measure the board before he moves. The pressure begins with a small pouch, the kind of object that could mean payment, proof, or a trap dressed as a bargain. Yifan faces a purple-haired young woman at close range, and the exchange immediately feels too sharp to be ordinary negotiation. When he reveals a controlled glow in his hand, the balance shifts. She appears startled as he moves closer, because the young servant is no longer acting like someone asking for permission. Night then settles over the estate, and the private tension spills outward. Several figures gather near the grounds, including a blonde young woman and a red-haired young woman whose reactions sharpen the mood. By the time fiery energy or a glowing formation appears, everyone present understands that Yifan's quiet pressure can become public danger. Yifan carries or supports an orange-haired young woman through a wooden interior, and the scene instantly puts him under adult scrutiny. Stern men question him, trying to pull the situation back under their authority, while the young woman stays close to him, embarrassed and emotionally shaken. Yifan does not answer like a frightened servant. He remains composed, letting his confidence do part of the arguing for him. Then a yellow paper or token becomes the room's focus, functioning like proof, permission, or leverage even though its exact role is unclear. More men gather, reactions intensify, and the path leads toward a larger hall. The conflict is still unresolved, but Yifan has already achieved something important. He has forced the adults to respond to his evidence instead of merely dismissing his rank. The tension opens into a crowded outdoor space filled with beast-like mounts, attendants, and martial-looking groups preparing to move. Yifan stands among companions, watchful and serious, while a red-haired young woman becomes emotionally central to the discussion. The purple-haired woman also steps into the exchange, speaking at length as the group appears to weigh warnings, terms, or consequences. The setting feels like the start of a journey, but the number of witnesses makes it political before anyone even leaves. Supplies and retainers in the background suggest this is not a simple personal errand. Yifan listens more than he reacts, keeping his expression controlled while others show worry or defensiveness. Then a massive red, demonic-looking energy form appears above them, turning movement into a looming threat. Yifan begins speaking in a language nobles understand, advancement through power. A sly purple-haired nobleman smiles with the confidence of someone used to controlling formal conversations, but Yifan calmly presents Imperial backing as a path for a family to rise. That idea sounds useful on the surface, yet it carries the edge of a test. A blonde girl beside Yifan reacts with concern, and an older official figure appears shaken by the direction of the exchange. The setting shifts through a formal courtyard-like gathering where witnesses and attendants watch the nobleman's grand gestures. He performs confidence, but Yifan projects danger. When Yifan's red-eyed intensity and a blue-green burst of energy enter the moment, polite alliance talk starts looking like a power play with teeth. The gathering turns chaotic around a loud yellow-robed or blonde figure whose reactions dominate the room. He shouts, gestures, and seems determined to make the dispute revolve around his pride. Around him, older men, a purple-haired woman, and younger figures continue the tense conversation in an indoor or courtyard-like space. The exact words are unreadable, but the emotional pattern is clear. One side keeps escalating, while others watch, intervene, or respond with more restraint. A brown-haired young man in yellow clothing appears caught in the argument, and a small golden-looking object surfaces without a clear identity. The yellow-clad figure grows smug, then more agitated, until speed lines or energy suggest a sudden charge or dramatic declaration. Instead of restoring order, the outburst leaves the scene tilting toward humiliation or collapse. The dispute tightens around Yifan, the blonde young woman, the purple-haired woman, a yellow-robed young man, and several older retainers. The room reacts sharply, as if the argument has reached a point where words alone are no longer enough. Yifan stays near the blonde woman and keeps a guarded expression while older figures argue around them. At one point he lowers himself, though whether it is a bow, a kneel, or a tactical posture remains unclear. What matters is how carefully he refuses to panic. The yellow-robed young man then moves into the center of attention, facing Yifan through the crowd. A bright golden aura bursts from him and startles the room. That power display changes the conversation from social pressure into a direct measure of strength. After the crowded confrontations, Yifan moves into a greener outdoor setting with a purple-haired woman in yellow and at least one pale-haired or blue-haired figure nearby. The scenery looks calmer, but the conversation does not. The purple-haired woman reacts with surprise, worry, and visible emotion, while Yifan keeps speaking with the same firm control he shows in hostile rooms. A long sharp visual element appears near them, possibly a weapon, staff, ribbon, or motion effect, giving the exchange an uneasy edge even without a confirmed fight. Close-ups keep returning to their faces, making this feel like a serious warning rather than casual talk. Then a dark silhouette-like image intrudes, suggesting a remembered threat, hidden enemy, or ominous idea. Yifan ends beneath the sky, still composed, as if he has already accepted the risk. The danger finally becomes violent. A dark-haired young man stands in a tense indoor exchange with an older white-haired figure, while another pale-haired character remains close enough to make the atmosphere feel personal. The scene turns quickly from discussion into confrontation. A white-haired elder-like combatant releases bright golden-white energy, and the clash throws red and blue action across the space. The impact sends a figure flying or falling through the air, leaving the exact outcome uncertain but the force unmistakable. This is the kind of cultivation conflict where hierarchy suddenly has to prove itself through power. After the eruption, the mood drops into a calmer blue-toned conversation involving the dark-haired young man and pale-haired figures. The fight may have paused, but the trust around it has clearly been damaged. The story then narrows from public pressure into a private wooden room, where Yifan and a blonde young woman face a different kind of danger. He appears to carry or support her inside, and she is immediately overwhelmed, embarrassed, and unsure of how to stand before him. Yifan speaks at close range with measured confidence, guiding the conversation while she blushes heavily and tries to hide part of her face. Their exchange is tense because he controls the emotional rhythm as easily as he controls a negotiation. He gestures, steps away, then turns back, never letting the moment fully escape him. The closeness grows until the final contact appears like an embrace or kiss. She is left shocked and flushed, and the bond around Yifan becomes much harder to separate from strategy. Yifan soon faces an older man in formal robes who presses him for answers. The man seems suspicious of what Yifan claims to understand and demands a clearer explanation, but Yifan does not retreat into excuses. He admits he has an idea and presents himself as useful, not helpless. That distinction matters, because everyone around him keeps trying to read his servant status as weakness. The older man grows more forceful, yet Yifan continues calmly, turning suspicion into space for his plan. Then the purple-haired young woman enters, and Yifan immediately pulls her into the matter. He gestures toward her as someone who can help test, prove, or demonstrate what he intends. She responds with confident interest, almost teasing, and the scene closes with the feeling that Yifan's next move requires action, not talk. This stretch works because Yifan's greatest weapon is not only remembered power. It is control over how other people react. Proud heirs shout, older men challenge him, noble figures smile, women around him become emotionally entangled, and cultivation energy keeps revealing who is bluffing and who is dangerous. Yifan rarely needs to explain everything for the room to change around him. He shows just enough power, proof, or confidence to make higher status people hesitate. That is the core appeal of this Chinese manhua. The servant body is weak on paper, but the mind inside it keeps rewriting the rules. Now his plan has a partner, a test, and a room full of people waiting to see whether he can actually prove himself. Subscribe for the next recap, because Yifan's quiet demonstration may become his loudest reversal yet.